Hello fellow bike people! This time on Project Used Bikes, I'm going to show you how to deal with the weird brake mounts on these old Eastern BMX bikes, and then we're going to take the bike and do some silly stuff involving suspension with it. Hopefully it'll be pretty fun. So before we deal with the BMX bike, I just want to give you a quick update on all the used donor bikes that I'm doing for Project Used Bikes this year. The collection is growing. I've got 3 or 4 more bikes now. Some of them are actually pretty decent quality. I actually got one just last night when somebody who knew one of the other volunteers at Mississauga Cycles was told that I was taking the donation bikes, and she contacted me through Instagram, dropped the bike off at my place. I dropped it off at the shop today. As soon as we reopen, I'm going to go and fix that thing up, get it ready for donation. So being that it's winter and not a lot of people ride bikes around here during the winter, I've only found homes for 2 of the bikes so far, and honestly one of them doesn't really count. But you're going to see more about those bikes in future episodes. For now, let's get to the BMX. So all the clips you're about to see are things I filmed back around Halloween when I first got the bike. I don't even remember how much I paid, but it was something that I picked up on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace or something like that for an unreasonably cheap price. And looking closely at it, I can see why. The bike had, when I got it, a completely mismatching drivetrain that made the bike near unpedalable. The headset was messed up, it was actually missing bearings entirely. The handlebar was like off some kiddie race bike, I think, from Redline, so the geometry is really weird on that. And then the biggest issue with it is the brake mounts are a really weird design, so it didn't have brake mounts. The only brake on the bike was one of those cheap little clampy C brakes on the front wheel. This next bit is how to actually deal with those brake mounts. Now the one thing that I didn't realize until halfway through filming that is that the bolts that attach road bike brakes to forks through the back there, they're actually the same thread as the bolts that hold the brake pads on. So you'll notice I kind of switch between them during the filming here. It's because I filmed these 2 bits at different times. But yeah, interchangeable, whichever one you have or is easier for you to get, you can use that for this hack. Ever seen brake mounts like this? Removable types? Nah, I doubt it. These are really weird. This is something that was done by Eastern Bikes around the 2010 era. So the bike has welded guides for the cable, but it has removable mounts for the brake itself, and these are a weird design. Most bikes, the brake mounts just thread up in there. In this case, it's a big open hole like that. So that can be really tricky to fix. These are nice bikes, but I see a lot of them with this problem and nobody can ever find brake mounts for them. So I'm going to show you how to fix it. So down on the lower right there, these are regular V-brake mounts. These are removable parts for older mountain bike forks, back when mountain bikes used to use V-brakes. At the back here we have the threaded piece for a road bike brake, and this type of setup will work okay as a temporary thing, but the diameter of the boss here is actually slightly different than on the proper BMX brake mounts. This BSD brake mount set is basically one of 2 common ways for brake mounts to attach to BMX bikes. Either they can thread directly into the frame, or the bolt can pass through the mount and then thread into the frame. In this case, the diameter on the threads there looks to be the same as on these, so we should be able to get the proper BMX brakes onto that bike without them shaking around on the tabs. Well, fits as well as I hoped. It's no more wiggle or anything, looks all good now. Threaded piece at the bottom, this is just one of those tips from the brake pads right there. You get loads of these super cheap. Most bike shops have them for free, they're just kind of throwing them out, so tons of these sitting around. That feels super solid. Awesome. Now the bit I was really looking forward to, getting silly with this bike. So one of the donor bikes I got was from Mountain Equipment Co-op. It was a little 20-inch kids bike, but it was like a pretty decent quality one. We're talking aluminum frame, like the 1 1/8 headset, double wall rims, brand name parts on it, like a Shimano drivetrain, nice quality V-brakes, not the little like stamped steel type, but actually good aluminum V-brakes, so really solid kids bike, but it had a lot of damage to it and wasn't quite worth fixing. I just stole some of the good parts off it though. First of all, the tires. These are a little bit chunkier than the ones I have on the blue bike right now. So I'm gonna put those on for a little bit of winter riding. And then, this is the fork off that little 20-inch kids bike. Now it's a Suntour XCT Junior, and the adult versions of this fork come on the most basic like mountain and hybrid bikes that you can get. Like they are brand name, but they're nowhere near a good quality fork. They even got the little like warning sticker essentially saying not for stunting use. Why do they all use the phrase stunting instead of doing tricks or aggressive riding or trail riding or jumps or something like that? Why is it stunting? But yeah, so we're gonna do some stunting with this. See if it holds up and see why modern BMX bikes don't have suspension. So like if you look at race bikes through history, like BMX race bikes, some of them have had suspension. It's kind of come and gone. It was really popular I think through like the late 80s when suspension first started getting designed, and then it just kind of faded out. Because really BMX bikes, they're all about direct power transmission and just rigidity. So having the suspension just makes the bike heavier, makes it less efficient, so you don't really need it. I want to experiment though. I want to see what happens. I'm going to leave the bearing race on here because it's the wrong one. This is for actual ball bearings. The BMX bikes use the Campy Spec sealed bearings for the most part, so it's not going to interface in there nicely, but it should last long enough for me to do this video. I'm going to swap it back right after, and if I do end up damaging the bearing, whatever, I got more bearings to toss in there. It's not going to damage the frame, and that's all that matters. Last little consideration is obviously with these dropouts, pegs aren't going to work on there. Being that this is going to add a fair amount of weight to the bike anyways, I don't mind taking the pegs off just to kind of even that out. Wow, the lighting here is not as good as I expected. Sorry about that. So, I'm just removing the old fork now. It's pretty simple to do this, just the 2 bolts on the side, the 1 bolt on the top. Everything should slide apart. Just hook the bar over the pedal. Fair amount of grease in there, that's all good. Now something I wanted to mention while I'm doing this, I didn't come up with this idea all on my own. So like I said before, there have been BMX bikes with suspension in the past. But what really made me think of this was the Fingers Crossed BMX series. The guys who do it, Ruben and Garrett, they are absolute legends in the BMX world. Their style of riding back when they were younger was really influential. They helped build BMX into what it is now. And recently they've gone out of their way to try and do it again. They've basically built a combination downhill bike and BMX bike. Imagine the fat bike or plus size tires, fairly beefy suspension, including rear suspension, on an otherwise just straight up BMX bike. So the single speed, the BMX frame, BMX bars, some disc brakes on there just for the fun of it. But yeah, they look really fun, they look really capable, and I know this is not going to perform anything like that, but I just want to like do a proof of concept, you know? Bearing, yeah, like I said, the bearing doesn't fit perfect on that race there, but it'll do for now. That's not horrible, I'm not going to need too many spacers. 10 mils worth? Looks about right. There's like a little chunky bit here on the steerer tube. I'm gonna have to file that down and then get this on. I'll be right back with you. I finished it. But like, the weirdest part though is it doesn't even look that bad, right? I mean, I gotta say I'm really, really stoked to go and try this out. Hope it doesn't, you know, snap and explode or fall apart on me and break my arms again or something.
Don't say that.
Don't worry, I'll be nice to it.
I don't trust you.
Oh, this is gonna be so much fun. I give up. Sorry, give me a minute. Those are all tricks that I can normally do with pretty much, okay, not perfect accuracy, but pretty good most of the time. The suspension just makes everything feel all squishy and vague, and it's so hard to get my balance. Now, the only benefit to the suspension, as far as I can tell, is it's got a bit of rebound to it, so it helps you pop backwards nicely. Not worth it though. Everything feels so vague and just meaningless, like your inputs have no meaning on that bike. So, to summarize, I was hoping for a little bit more of a mountain bikey experience with this, but no, it doesn't do that. Suspension on a BMX just makes the bike feel vague, removes that responsiveness and stiffness that you really need from a BMX. Rigidity is key with these things. Whew, it's cold out here. So, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something, hope you now understand why these things don't have suspension, and don't worry, next time on Project Used Bikes I'll be getting back to the normal, fixing bikes, getting them ready for donation. Hopefully I can even find somewhere good to donate the bikes. I'd say chances are slim this time of year because it's just the beginning of winter, but who knows, maybe somebody needs them. If not, they'll wait till next summer, but I'm going to get back to prepping them.